Welcome to Not in a Huff with Jackson Huff, where we interview newsmakers, storytellers, and all-around interesting people. Sit back, relax, unless you're driving, and enjoy the show. Here's Jackson.
Hello. I am Jackson Huff. This is Not in a Huff. Thanks so much for joining me. As always, really appreciate it. This week I'm speaking with Willow Bradner. Now, Willow, I've had someone on like her in the past. Oh, goodness, probably a year and a half, 2 years ago now. But Willow is a psychic. We're going to talk a little bit about how that happened. She's kind of got a funny story about that. She calls herself the accidental psychic because it wasn't something that she set out to be. She was a hair stylist. She cut hair. She owned beauty salons, and then all of a sudden she realized that she was hearing from some of her loved ones, family members who had departed. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about just figuring out that she had these abilities. We're going to talk about how she's trying to use those those abilities for good, and how she's not wanting to put any negative out into the world, and as long as she can use it as a service to others, that she's open to continue. But the moment that it's not, she doesn't want to. So I thought that was really, really powerful to hear from her for sure. Just like anybody that I talk to that talks about anything that's, I guess, has differing opinions about it. Obviously the world of psychics, some people are very, very receptive to that, and some people don't think that it's true at all. So this podcast is all about speaking with people with an interesting profession, learning about them, learning about their passions, and you definitely can't say that Willow is not passionate about what she's doing, and her desire to help others, and I really respect that. I think that's great. Anybody who's out there to be of service to others is okay in my book. So I really, really appreciate Willow speaking with me. She's gonna, like I said, cover the start, cover that middle part, cover some of the really amazing readings she's been able to do, and some of the really impactful things she's been able to help with. She's going to cover some funny things too. She's not specifically a pet psychic like the person I had on before, but she does have a funny story about a turtle. We'll leave it at that. I do want to tell you that Willow, she asked me in the beginning, you'll hear it, whether she can cuss. I said yes. This is not a necessarily a children's podcast, but it's also not one that we do a ton of that in. Not a ton, but there is a little bit of cussing and a few of those choice F words. But again, very, very minimal. But I always like to point that out when it does happen. I really think you're going to enjoy this conversation. Here is Willow Bradner. I'm here today with Willow Bradner. Miss Bradner, how are you?
I'm so good. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for agreeing to join me. I appreciate it very much. Hardest question of the evening. Easiest question for me. Just introduce yourself.
Hi, you guys. I'm Willow. I call myself the accidental psychic. I'm just pumped to be here.
Oh, I love that. And that's really the first question that I wrote too. Accidental psychic. It kind of sounds that sounds funny. What does that mean exactly?
Should I start with, am I allowed to swear, or do you want me to put this in a PG way?
Well, you can swear. I mean,
all right, good.
Obviously, I'm looking at you now, Will, and I can't imagine that you're just going to now start dropping the F-bomb every 2 words.
I mean, I speak like a truck driver, and the reason I ask is because I always like to say is the accidental psychic means who the fuck would choose this? I was I was a hairdresser. I owned a hair salon. I worked in Denver. I had a bustling, brilliant career sort of already going when this happened. So I always like to say it was an accident because nobody necessarily ever chooses this. So that's how it sort of came out, is somewhere in the middle of hair.
Gotcha. So let's we can dive into that. So it wasn't something that you necessarily chose. So I mean, how did this come about? And once I guess you started realizing your abilities, if that's the right word to use. Was it something that you
Mhm.
kind of pushed back on and was like, nah, I'm not about
Yeah.
this. I got a perm at 4:30 to do, or what did you, what were you thinking at that time?
Yeah. So for me, I mean, mine came sort of obtusely out of nowhere. I truly was just quite literally doing hair. And what I started to notice that was that my clients started coming to my house on the weekends, calling me after I was done doing their hair to say, thank you so much. That thing that you told me came true, more or less, or the way that you talked about my boss really helped me navigate this work career situation, or what you said about my husband was so useful. And I was able to use those tools that you offered. And it felt like I was giving advice. It felt like it was really natural and just coming out of me. Now, I've told this story 280 times. So what I laugh about now is like, so they couldn't have phoned a friend. So they needed the advice of a hairdresser on the weekend. So they were like, why were they coming to me? So it never occurred to me at that time that it was coming from some other place. For me, really, the big shift, the big leap happened on my wedding night. Because that's when everything happens for everybody, right? Is on your wedding night. And talk about a bait and switch. So here I am, we've had copious amounts of alcohol. We've definitely like had the highlight of our day. And we're sitting around a campfire with my parents. And we're just regaling in the day and just talking about like what love is and what our future holds. When out of nowhere, my body sort of took a shift and my voice changed to octave. And it's my dad who recognizes his own father coming out of me. And he looks at me across the fire and goes, holy fuck, I think you're channeling my father. And just as my father recognized his own dad coming out of me, my husband, his late mother, also starts trying to come through. And my husband did not sign up for Girl Who Speaks to Dead People, by the way. This is not what he's into. And he stands up and he's like, like we've had enough to drink. Let's go to bed. Let's like call it. I think it's gotten weird. Let's go. But instead of consummating my marriage that night, I stayed up with my parents and talked to dead people. So that was the first time that it came out. And of course, we woke up the next day with hangovers and doubt and absolutely like, this is not real. This is just, we were just drunk. There was nothing real that just happened there. So I tucked it away. But every time alcohol would like cross my mouth, other people's loved ones would show up. Other people would have these really big telling stories. And I remember finally sitting my husband down and going, I know how weird this is, but I think your mom has a message for you. And I think we have to do this thing. And so we sat on our back patio one night and his mom came in such a prolific, beautiful way. She basically said, like, we are going to have a child with blonde hair. We do. She kept talking about how abundant we would be. We are. And then she went into this whole, like, wouldn't let go of a treasure being buried on the left side of his childhood home back in Ohio. So my husband goes home to Ohio and I'm calling him on the phone every day, like, what's on the left side of the house? Did you dig? Is there a treasure? And he pauses and he says, no, babe, it's a willow tree on the left side of the house. So it was like his mom's way of giving her blessing to us through this, what I call woo channel. And so that was the day that I really was like, uh-oh, I guess things aren't going to be what they used to be. But again, I owned a hair salon. I was born with the name Willow, for crying out loud. I was not going to step into this thing. Like I didn't want to prove everybody right that I was already weird, like I didn't want to prove that I was going to be extra weird. So I really tucked it away. I put it away until my daughter was born.
Couple of things I want to ask you about that. And you said that it was kept coming out every time, the liquor was involved. So do you think that was because, it allowed you to, I guess, be a little bit more loose
Yeah.
and you weren't really kind of trying to suppress it? Is that why you think that's the case? Or?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. And I want to say for the listeners, I no longer drink in psychic. We have boundaries now. Like I've been trained. I don't have to liquor up to do psychic readings for people anymore, although I bet it would be fun. So yeah, I mean, I think it was just like that last bit that had to get out of the way. And when the loved ones showed up, when the people from the other side started showing up, I started to really recognize like, A, I need some boundaries. B, I need somebody to tell me what the heck is happening to my life because this is insane. And then, the question that I ask of everything in my life from having done hair and been in service my entire life is this going to be something that's going to serve? Is this something that's going to help people? Because I'm unwilling to do truly anything in life if it's not in service of others, if it's not going to bring out the best. Like I'm not dancing here in the dark, I'm dancing in the light. And so if I'm going to dance in the light of this, if I'm going to use this tool, then it has to be directed in a manner that feels true to me, which is, that of the puppies and that of the rainbows.
Yeah, yeah, I want to touch on that in a moment, but it kind of just happened. So I wonder, you've trained more now. Like you said, it doesn't take the liquid courage now. You actually have trained, but in the early days, what did this look like to you? Because I mean, it wasn't something that you channeled or chose. So was it just like, I don't know, voices in your head? What was it like?
Such a good question. It's so interesting. If you've ever been really good at something, you kind of want to keep doing the thing that you're good at. And if you're just like learning how to do it, you can't put it down until you've mastered it. And so for me, the early days was like, what is this? And how do I master it? How do I understand the tool and utensil better? So I did kind of cross boundaries as a hairdresser a few times, but I learned in that time to ask questions instead of accidentally psychic on people. So the big thing was it does always feel like a voice. I do get images like crazy. I feel like I'm always playing Pictionary a little bit. Luckily, I'm really good at deductive reasoning, so I can deduce really quickly what the Pictionary symbols look like. I am definitely like, if you want to play with me, I'm gonna win. Okay, um, so it felt like Pictionary. It felt like words in my head. It felt like I was getting handed down giant paragraphs of information, and the big thing that I had to discern was what is bullshit, aka my ego. What is, you know me wanting to prove to people that I know how to do this, and what is actually psychic. Like, what is actually coming from the other side? And so for me, it was the distillation of these two parts of me that seemed at the time kind of wildly conflated and really unclear what was what. So for me, it was really learning how to quiet down those external and internal voices so that I could really decipher what was my ego just wanting to be cool and the psychic that was true.
I gotcha. And I wonder too, you mentioned how it just happened. So, I mean, I feel like that means it was, something innate, but do you think this is something people can, I guess, hone and learn that it didn't just kind of smack them in the face? What's that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I've never spoken to a single person who doesn't have some story about having a dream right before their grandparent died, or knowing that they were going to have a car accident that day, or having a feeling they were going to get fired, or, like we all have had tugs of feelings. And usually, and the difficult part is usually when we have those feelings, it's right before something not positive happens. And so most of us just don't want to dive into it because we think that that's going to be the essence of what this thing is it's all going to be negative news. But I do believe we all already have it. I think we're already dialed in to be more intuitive. And I use the word intuitive versus psychic here because intuition is our personal guide. Psychic is sort of the guide for others, in my opinion. And so, whether or not we want to sign up for psychic or we want to sign up just to have a better sense of direction for ourselves, that's the choice each of us get to make.
Yeah, and I think that's what some people, the whole intuition is something that, people would point to when it comes to, psychic ability, where people think, well, yeah, every once in a while, some of these, negative thoughts are going to actually come true. It's, a broken clock is right at twice a day, something like that. Well, if I continue to think these things, eventually something's going to happen that is that. So what do you say to that? Or you can see
It's
what's the word? What is that? I can't remember what it is when you kind of will something to happen.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Not
A lot of people
manifest. I
use
know you
it
don't like that one.
manifest. Yeah, I'm not a big manifester. I won't lie about that. Um, I don't think we can will something to happen. So I do want to just say to your audience, like, I don't believe in manifesting. I do not believe I'm a one-time cancer survivor, and I can unequivocally say that I did not manifest it. It did not come to me because I thought about cancer every day and then there it was, it appeared. That's not at all how things happen. But I will say that my intuition knew that I was sick, and that my intuition was like relentlessly going to doctors until somebody would get me the result that I knew was happening inside of my body. And I don't know how to describe what is the difference between what is intuition and what is your ego. But what I can say is the ego is the one that always tells you that the party's going to suck and you shouldn't go. And the intuition is the one that says, but maybe something magical will happen there. And so it's trying to decide, like, if my ego is trying to cock block me, if my ego is trying to stand in the way of something fun and great, or if it's my intuition truly warning me. And I do believe it can be both and. I believe the most serendipitous moments of our lives happen because intuition has us turn right instead of the left that we were intending to go. I believe that it's those days where we wake up in the morning and we say yes to something that wasn't in our plans that brings us to some of the most abundant things that happen in our lives. And I believe that that is intuitive and innate in us, that we say, yeah, screw it. Like, let's not go to work today. Let's call in sick and go to a party instead. And that's when you meet the love of your life. It's always on that day. And I think our intuition is that guide.
I like that. You mentioned about, being a puppies and rainbow type psychic, which is interesting to me because, I mean, obviously not everything that comes through, I can imagine, is positive. So what's that look like? How is that possible? I guess if you're truly, being open to anything that you're getting in that kind of reading. I mean, and I say that in a place of not really completely understanding exactly what you're doing.
Totally. And you have every reason to ask that question. So the reason that I paint myself puppies and rainbows is I'm going to give you two answers. One is there's a lot of people in this industry that I do think dance in the dark, if you will. As I said earlier, I'm somebody who wants to dance in the light. And in a guesstimate that you might have people who are religious who listen to your podcast, the reason that I corner myself as puppies and rainbows is because I truly feel that I am not interested in anything that would be from the other side that we would call negative or something of malice, something dangerous. I'm not playing with dangerous energy, if that makes sense. So the puppies and rainbows aspect is the filter with which I choose to see this. When I work with people, and I work with many, I do big group readings as well as individual readings, but I always ask my clientele and I ask my people, especially in the big group spaces, if we can do something that's more light, that we choose the loved ones on the other side that we're not working stuff out with. If I'm in a one-to-one and we're doing hard things, then I'm still cracking jokes and I'm still swearing when nobody's expecting it, because laughter is the cure-all, in my opinion. Positivity is the cure-all, in my opinion, to any of the negative vibes that otherwise stick to us. So if we can have humor, if we can have lightness, if we can laugh a little bit in between, and if I can show you hard things through the difference between Google Maps and Waze, then you're going to have such an easier time getting through. As I always like to say, like, we all know Google Maps is going to take us right through the accident. It is still not the better app. But like Waze is always like, well, here's the better ways around the situation that we want to avoid. And it's not to say that you might not see the situation that we're here to have and be in, but what if we can navigate around it? What if we can get you to the doctor on time before there's a heart attack? What if we can help find that lost piece of jewelry? What if we can help you navigate the relationships in your life so that you are no longer in a combatant relationship with somebody? What if this information helps you to release yourself of shame or guilt, having lost somebody and not gotten to say goodbye to them? That's freaking puppies and rainbows. It's not that it's not hard. It's just like, what if this navigation tool that I have can help your life feel more easeful?
No, that makes a lot of sense. So you're not saying that you just kind of shut down the bad stuff and only tell the good stuff. You just kind of present things in an easier to digest way, if I'm understanding correctly.
Amen to that. Yes.
All right. Well, that makes sense for sure. And we already mentioned a second ago about how you're not a big fan of manifesting. You're not a big fan of the modern spirituality movement, which is kind of interesting to me. You call it BS because I feel like that all, when it comes when I think of manifesting and modern spirituality, that all kind of seems like it works hand in hand in psychic stuff. So what do you say to people who, you know, lump psychic reading into all of that, think it's BS as well?
Yeah. Um, the BS part to me is that spirituality is meant to be containerless. It's not meant to be dogmatic. It's not meant to be capitalized on. It is individual for every person. And what I've seen in the history of spirituality and spiritualism, especially since the advent of bringing, yoga over, is like if you pillow top palms up, meditate, you're going to be a better person. Or the hierarchy that we always try to build into every religion. I was having this thought the other day about religion and spirituality and like why is it that we love to like imagine that if you're a really good person good things happen to you? Like on what planet is that ever true? Have you ever noticed that the really crap shit people are millionaires? And the really crap shit people still drive nice cars. And oftentimes they don't get cancer and they just go about their lives and they live forever. But like this super, super good person who's volunteered her entire life, who is kind and generous and outgoing and helps people, she's the one that gets the cancer and dies. So spirituality, as it's being taught and told both in religion and in spiritual indoctrination, when it comes to this good, bad thing, it's hurting people because it's a lie. It doesn't matter if you're a good person. I hope you're a good person because you want to be a good person, not because you think that it's going to make you better than somebody else. And that's why I fight against this idea of spirituality in that way. Is like, I'm just done with the hierarchy of it. Nobody can manifest something that is outside of what is already organically coming to them. So if your astrological chart says that you are going to be Mother Teresa and you're never going to make $1 million, then you're not going to manifest $1 million. You're going to be Mother Teresa and you're going to be volunteering your face off and having abundance in a totally different way in the cherishment of the relationships that you're building. That's going to be your abundance. That's going to be your wealth. But if you're like, I just want like a swimming pool and a Porsche full of cash, I'm not into it. I'm not into it. And I feel like spiritualism and religion have conflated themselves with money and more instead of understanding what is and being grateful for just getting to be here.
So, I mean, throwing the casting the health problems aside, because I understand that's not much you can do about that. But if you're saying that you don't really have a lot of control over your destiny, I guess my question there it would be, I mean, what would be the benefit of your service then if you can't really help control the things that are going to happen to you?
I think that's a really wise question also. The benefit is how many of us are always wanting to see around the bend. I mean, we map quest now because we can and we don't have to carry, you're so young, you never had a paper map a day in your life, but the
Not
rest
as
of us
young as
had
you
to
think.
like really map stuff out. And so what psychic ultimately is mapping stuff out. But as well, like I mentioned before, I do believe that we have sort of a basic map that we're all living by. But I also believe that, again, I'm going to go into like the human relationships. If you're in a fight with your sibling and you just do not understand why your sibling will not back down, imagine meeting a psychic who understands your sibling, the full inside of your sibling, and can actually help you understand them in a way you've never been able to see them before. And suddenly the relationship becomes more easeful. You can find love, compromise, less shame, less blame in that relationship and let go. And it's no longer taking up real estate. And now you can pivot all that energy into what is your purpose. 90% of people are not living into their purpose. 90% of people are not living into their soul contract or their soul map because they're built in fear anyways. And so the psychic piece shows you who you ultimately could be. It shows you what your potential is. So if you're looking at the difference between career A and career B, it's going to be like, well, what about career C? And let me show you how you can get to that C-suite faster than everybody else. Let me show you how to jump 2 squares so that you can get where you want to go abundantly without hurting anybody and really learning how to get to be in your full potential. So to me, psychic is ultimately like breaking the glass that surrounds you. So I think all of us are sort of in the prison of our own making, and psychic really like breaks that glass, shakes things up, helps with relationships, helps us see ourselves for who we really are when no one else is looking and no one's shooting on us. It gets rid of the societal blindness, and it helps our imagination step more into the potential of why we're actually here so that we can accomplish what we're here to do.
I like that. And then I also like that you think I'm young enough that I didn't have to deal with, these maps. My first trip out east, I had a whole binder of MapQuest all over. We missed one turn and we were lost in Massachusetts. So no, I've definitely dealt with that
Okay, great,
for
great, great,
sure.
great. So you know what I mean then.
I certainly do. I want to now ask you a little bit about, again, kind of dispelling some of the things people are thinking, and that is, you know, is it a case of, a few bad apples kind of spoil the whole bushel? Because there are plenty of psychics that, and I want to ask whether you agree, kind of
Yeah.
whether they have ability or not, kind of prey upon people, whether it's for monetary gain or for power. What do you say to that? Because there
Yeah,
is,
it's so
there is
much,
a,
you guys.
yeah.
It's pervasive. It's really hard to distinguish and decipher who is real, who is not real. And what I would honestly say to anybody who's curious about this space is obviously number one, go to their website. Number two, see if you know anybody who's been to them. Like I really do believe in the referral system for seeing a psychic. Make sure you've heard something about them. Make sure that they posted a review on their website. I'm terrible about posting reviews because I don't care, but stalk them on Instagram, stalk them on the TikTok. Make sure that they're not spouting crazy. I guess that's really, for me, that's really what it boils to is if they're spouting crazy, I'm a hard pass. I'm looking for somebody who looks like me, sounds like me, and isn't spouting BS. In terms of like the other thing I always ask, if they're not willing to give you a refund, if you don't have a reading that has enough ding, ding, dings in it, that would be a hard pass for me too. The number one thing I always do is if I get in the middle of a reading and I'm like, wow, I am not getting anything today, I'm going to give you your money back right away. Because I mean, sometimes it's just not an energetic match and we're just not going to do it. But then other days, like I had a reading the other day and this woman had asked for her dad, and her dad comes right in and starts like talking about it again, a buried treasure in the backyard. We're back on buried treasures in backyard. She goes, "Is it real?" Because on his deathbed, he kept telling us where to dig. And he had bought all these silver and gold bars. And she was like, "Yes, that's right," and checked it off. And then I start talking about, he keeps saying, "Annie, get your gun. Annie, get your gun." And she goes, "Well, my mom and dad dressed up like Buffalo Bill and Annie Oakley. And we go to all these things." And then he kept talking about belt buckles. So there's enough information that somebody can say yes to, then you know I'm real. But if you're not getting validation and they're just wooing you and they're just giving you a bunch of language that is metaphorical, that is not a yes for you, run for the hills and ask for your money back. Like I will give anybody their money back is how you want to know who's real and who is not.
I
Yeah.
guess, I feel like, it's a thing. I'd like to say that, if it seems too good to be true that it is, but I don't know. I guess I'm struggling with that a little bit because, you mentioned earlier that, your services can, potentially help you get to the C-suite quicker. That seems a little too good to be true. So I don't know.
Well,
I
not
feel like,
everybody signed up for a C-suite. Let me start there. I mean, I'm
yeah.
not going to get everybody to the C-suite, but there are people who are designated or designed for an affluent financial fiscal life that may be in poverty mindset. And so helping them figure out where that gasket needs replacing is really going to help them navigate to get to where they're meant to be faster, sooner.
I gotcha. What's it look like when it comes to a reading? I would assume most people, if they're giving you their hard-earned money, they are very receptive. But does it take, a give and take from you and from the other person? Is it ever the case where, the other person's not open to, I guess, receiving, and that closes the channel for you, or is that not really how it works?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So you asked earlier about like what it was like in the very beginning. So I'll give this example. My dear friend Kim comes in, and I've known Kim for years. She doesn't think I'm a psychic. I don't think I'm a psychic. This is brand new. So, she does what everybody does. She goes, "All right, read me." And immediately I just see this gray screen go down in front of her. And I'm like, I get nothing. I am not a good psychic. I don't even know. I should never have said it out loud. This is terrible. So I'm beating myself up after her appointment and I'm like, God, what the heck? Why am I doing this? This is so dumb. I don't even want to be a psychic. This is the dumbest thing I ever signed up for. And I see this girl across the street and I was like, she looks familiar. I've never seen her before, but I guess she looks familiar. And I go back to my office and she's my next client in. And then all this information comes pouring in that is directly correlated to her. I keep asking her about pottery. She's a potter. I ask her about apples. They just bought a house with an apple tree in front of the house. And then I'm getting all these hits. Now, this is the beginning of the career. So I got to see this black and white stark difference between somebody who's effing with me and really just checking to see if I can do the job that I say I can do. And the person who literally just hired me to do the job and really means it and really does want help. So yeah, there's a big difference between those who come in open and those who don't. But that said, like now I'm, 15 years into this thing, and when a skeptic shows up, my ego is also the cock block there. So it's really a matter of me getting out of my own way, almost more than them getting out of their own way. It's my judgment that usually is the one that's standing in the way. My judgment, my fear of getting it wrong, my fear of them not liking me, my fear of like, what if they don't like the words that come out of my mouth? Once I've got all of that out of the way, then I can usually read somebody and I can transition pretty quick now because I don't care if you like me anymore, which is a great / worst thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about kind of the work that you are doing. It's been sprinkled in throughout our conversation, but like people coming to you, what exactly is the benefit? Because that's what I notice when it comes to psychics sometimes, that, just like you mentioned, that there's a cherry tree in the front of their house, or that their parents used to dress like Annie Oakley. That's kind of good things to say, hey, this is real, I'm not
Yeah,
fake, kind of just proving yourself. But then once you get beyond that, what kind of things are you then doing? Because people know
yeah,
they got a cherry tree, they know their parents dressed like Annie Oakley. It doesn't really benefit them if that's all they get.
sure, sure. Um, in terms of speaking to the loved ones, there's closure. A lot of times people have lost somebody and the ending was so traumatic and so hard for the person that I'm speaking to that they want to know, A, is their person on the other side and are they okay? B, is grandma with them? Are they all alone or do they have other people with them? C, um, is dad proud? Does dad feel and see and sense and experience them? So last night I did a big group reading and a woman asked for her late husband, whom she was deeply in love with. And he says to me, she drinks coffee out of my coffee cup every single morning. Tell her I'm right there next to her, drinking coffee with her. We're still having the same conversation. To me, the benefit of that is her knowing she's not insane. The benefit for her is knowing that her love is deeply felt the same on the other side. The benefit there is that she knows that her husband hasn't actually left her. He just isn't sitting next to her anymore. And so she gets to feel like it's okay to grieve the way that she's grieving because he is always there with her. So
Yeah,
there's
and
a
go
benefit
ahead.
in that for her. It's a benefit for them to know that their person is like, I see you, I'm here.
Yeah, and I feel like when it comes to this world, I feel like those who, you know, do channel loved ones. I mean, that's a great responsibility. So that's not something you want to mess up for sure. So I wonder too, just you already talked about, wanting positive nature. Not everything is positive. Not all relationships are positive when when somebody meets their end. So how do you deal with that? Is it always
So
a
this is
positive thing
another
that people
great,
are saying?
no, no, this story impacted me the most. It was a few months ago. Again, another group reading, a woman asked for her mom on the other side. I immediately got the flavor of alcohol in my mouth. It turns out mom had passed because she had been an alcoholic from the time this woman had been born. The daughter who asked for her mom had spent her entire childhood looking for food and living in shame and, going from household to household, looking in other friends' pantries for food because she was so food starved. And the message that came out of it wasn't from her mom, but the interjection of the other team, which are the guides and angels who I also speak to, came through. And they said, the shame that you've been living in never belonged to you. That shame belonged to your mom. And it's time for you to really work through that and go to therapy and work through the shame that you've been feeling because you were hungry and you had to go into other people's houses and sometimes steal food out of their cabinets so that you wouldn't starve to death. That's not your shame. That's mom's fault. And they wouldn't even let mom spend another minute on this woman. They pushed mom out of the way and went straight into this girl and started talking about how and who she is and how to clean up her life and who she has the potential to be in her life if she does the therapy and if she does the work that she chooses, because she's not going to end up like her mom and she doesn't have to be her mom. And while she might be her mother's daughter, she has raised herself and it's her turn to now fully remove that energy that came all the way into her life that way, of that shame again, that mom was so ashamed that it sort of painted her as well. So that was a hard reading, but the entire room, everybody that's in that room is gasping. Every woman in that room knows that feeling. Everybody is feeling for this woman and her, food scarcity and insecurity growing up. And everybody, when she left that room, every single person walked up to her and hugged her. Every single person in that room walked up and offered numbers, therapy, who they work with, who they love with. And I assure you that changed her whole life in that one moment, in that one reading. She will not be the same again.
That's powerful for sure. I wonder when it comes to, these readings, it sounds like you do a lot of different things. If people are listening and lack of a better word, kind of buying what you're selling here, what does a reading look like? Because I feel like half the time people that would be receptive to something like this are just a little bit afraid because they don't know what this looks like.
Yeah,
They don't know what it's going to look like when they're going to get on a Zoom call and somebody's, chanting in gibberish or something. So what's
that's
it
right.
look like?
Well, I mean, up until this point, I hope y'all know that I'm a regular gal. Like I am, the vice president of my HOA and I'm part of the PTA and I'm a mom and I'm a regular girl. I drive a fucking Subaru. Okay. Like ain't nothing special about this person over here. Okay. Just a regular person. So there will be no chanting here. There is no crystal ball. So when you hop on a Zoom call with me, we start with rapport always. I want to make sure that you feel safe. I want to make sure that you feel seen. If this is your first ever time, I want to ask you about your fears. I want to just get down to the brass tacks of what it is that brought you here. So we're always going to start with rapport. I am never psychic without permission. So we do what I call a landing meditation, but before I take anybody through the meditation, which is not gibberish, it's just an introduction to the people that I talk to on the other side that belong to you. We talk to your team, your guides, your angels, your loved ones. And I tell you who they are, how they feel, what their job is, what the definition of it is, so that you can feel it for yourself too. When we're done with this reading, I hope you walk away from this and never have to see me again because you learn how to do it yourself. So I'm really here just to be the instrument and the introduction to this weird thing so that you know that you're not alone, so that you know that there's this entire team upstairs working on your behalf and really working to make sure that you are getting where you're meant to go in life. So that's part one. And then part two, we open it up And I don't gotcha psychic. And I know that we have seen a lot of psychics on TV who are just like, here's what I'm getting for you. This is what feels like wants to come into you. Well, it's not my business. And so I will not breach your energy without your permission. You have to come, and everybody gets an email. So you have to come with questions. You have to come with the loved ones you want to connect with, or just the life questions, and I'll answer all of them. We can do everything from health to career to life to love to if you want to move houses, if whatever it is, you want to change your wardrobe, let's get into it. But I will answer, and by I mean I will be the messenger between your peeps upstairs and you to get you the highest level information that I can get.
I got you. And I want you now to mention you already talked about a few, but in your email you talked about how you've got at least some. We talked about a very serious story, but you've got some maybe funny stories when it comes to some readings. Yeah, I'm interested to hear some of that.
Yeah. So one of my favorites was, again, I do a lot of groups, you guys. So most of the group stories are the ones that I share. My favorite group story was a girl in the audience didn't know what to ask. So she goes, I don't know. Can you read my living tortoise? So sure enough, we get Lily the tortoise in, and Lily the tortoise immediately starts talking about how her favorite thing is this half-cut head of lettuce that she likes to just sit on and eat. Sure enough, she has a head of lettuce that this is how they feed her. She also starts talking about her best friends, the cats. Well, there's two cats in this house, and she talks about how much she loves the cats. And then she's also talking about how she feels really bad and she wants mom to know that she's not the one pooping on the floor. And mom starts dying laughing because they have an old dog who keeps having accidents on the floor. But Lily, the tortoise, wants to make sure mom knows the dog shit's not hers.
I like it.
So to me, that was like the best. And then she goes, and I'm just like a little dinosaur, and they all have voices. So when I talk to the animals all have like a little special voice. So this Lily was like, just had a little bit of a squeaky voice. And so then she says, and I'm just like a little dinosaur. And the mom bursts into tears at that moment, even though this is a living tortoise. She's like, oh my God, we call her our baby dinosaur. So those are also the funny ways that we can do it. My other favorite was a girl hated her job and hated her boss. And just in the middle of the reading, I go, is his name Gary? And sure enough, it's Gary. And the whole room gets to erupt because now I get to shit talk Gary, her boss, who luckily was not at the reading. But it's always just fun when those connected points happen and everybody knows everybody's got a Gary in their life. It might be Brenda for somebody else, but it's, we've always got a Brenda or a Gary. And if your name's Gary or Brenda, I'm sure you're great people. But anyway, we're just moving away from Karen's. Okay. So we're going to Brenda and Gary here.
I think that, yeah, I like the equal opportunity names for sure. Yeah, I mean, we've covered a ton. I guess one of the last questions I have is, we started with you kind of experiencing a lot of this on your wedding day and your husband saying, I did not sign up for this. Now we're 15 years in. What's your husband say about all of it now?
Well, we're still married. So let's start there, guys. Even though he didn't sign up for Girl Who Speaks to Dead People, he did sign up for Girl Who Speaks to Dead People in the end. He's super supportive. I'm selling out not arenas. It's not that big of a deal, but I'm selling out big venues. People are coming, they're flocking to this thing. And I think he sees that. He has people, we live in a small Colorado town. He has people that walk up to him in the supermarket and thank him daily. Like daily, he gets somebody walking up saying, your wife's amazing. Tell her thank you. She changed my life. So I think for him, it's pretty hard to deny that what this thing is, whatever we want to call it, it is helping. And again, it is of service. And the day that it is not, then I won't do it. The day that it hurts somebody, I won't do it. It's not the goal. It's not the plan. And I think for him, he's on board also if we are in service of the people that this is helping.
Yeah, yeah. And in wrapping things up, I always like to just talk about, people as a whole. So obviously we've spent so much time talking about this part of you.
Uh-huh.
two questions. One, what do you do outside of talking to dead people? What else do you like to do for fun? And then second is, how do you shut this off to make sure you can do that? I don't know whether it's something that you really have to focus on in order to happen, or whether you're, at the dog park and people are, you're hearing I'm a little dinosaur there too.
No, luckily I have really, really, really good, clear boundaries. I did go get trained at some point. So when it wouldn't go away, I found people, and if you can believe it, there's actually people out there that train people how to do this. So that was a mystery solved for me. I really didn't think people taught other people how to do this. But for anybody listening who's like, "Ooh, I want to learn," Sonia Choquette is one of the few people that really has a huge, broad class situation. James Von Prague is another one that really honed his skills and helps people learn how to do this. So if you are looking for classes, those were the people that I went through. My weekends are just like a normal person's weekend. We go hiking. We live in Colorado, so we hike, we four-wheel. We have friends. I cook a lot. Cooking is like my favorite thing to do. And again, I have a daughter, so she's 12. So I have a ton of school things that we go to and normal friends that I don't have to psychic for. And, I don't know. I think I'm just like everybody else. I feel like that People magazine used to do the stars. They're just like us. That's how I feel about me in the psychic world. I grocery shop too.
Well, that's good to hear for sure. Now shout out every way people can connect with you. I know you have a website. People want to look into booking sessions. People want to just hear more about you. Shout out your connection points.
Yeah, you guys are welcome to go to willowbradner.com or accidentally psychic, whichever one sticks in your brain. Go to one of those for the .com aspect of me. But I'm on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. I do love me some TikTok. So there I'm Willow Bradner. And you're just welcome to come visit and ask any questions, because as you can see, I'm happy to work in skepticism, happy to answer any questions. Again, the biggest thing is I just want to make this normal and not have to have it be so weird.
I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So that was Willow Bradner. As always, I'm sure you guessed it, I learned a lot this week. Learn a lot every week. I just appreciate Willow being so open to talking about, a topic that does confuse a lot of people, whether they're receptive to it or not. It's a topic that, there's a lot of people that feel really strongly about, yes, psychics are wonderful. They've helped me through so much. There's a lot of people that say it's, complete nonsense. So I tried my best to ask her questions, in a respectful manner that, allowed her to share with those who are receptive exactly her process and why maybe, what she does in her Puppies and Rainbows approach might be something that's beneficial to those listening that want to reach out to her, while also kind of asking the questions that some people who are skeptics may wonder. And she did a great job of answering all those questions and kind of explaining the process and why, she feels strongly about, things she's doing and the help that she feels she can do for others. So, she's really great to speak with. If her services are something you're interested in, she was a joy to speak with both on camera and off. So I do think she would be a great person to speak with about those type of things. The links to her information, the links to book with her, all that will be in the show notes. Urge you to check that out if that's something at all you're interested in. If this is your first time listening to this podcast, really appreciate you being here. If you would, go leave a 5-star rating on Apple and on Spotify. That helps a lot. Leave a written review on Apple, even more amazing. Go follow on Instagram. Go follow on Facebook. Instagram's Not Enough Podcast. Facebook's Not Enough with Jackson Huff. Any engagement, any following always is really, really beneficial. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate Willow for being here. We'll see you next week. Take it away, Chris.
This has been Not in a Huff with Jackson Huff. Thank you for listening. Be sure to join us next time, where we will interview another amazing guest who is sure to make you laugh or make you think. Or, hey, maybe even both. But until then, keep being awesome.